In every interview, I will be experiencing the theory concepts first and the coding next. But Unirac went in a different direction by asking a coding approach first to understand the problem solving skills of an employee, which I liked it very much. Hey Kodos, what's up? Hope you are doing great. I came with another interesting video. It is on my interview experience at Unirac for a software engineer role with 2+ years of experience. They have offered me around 10 LPA. This interview was happened around 1 hour 30 minutes. Let's discuss the questions that they have asked me. I have also attached the entire interview questions in the Notion page below. Do check out in the comment section. Before getting started, do like, share and subscribe to my channel. Let's go. They have quickly asked me to start with my self introduction. So I have given my introduction and I also covered the generative AI tools that I am using most. So they have also asked me to explain the generative AI agents that I am using most. The discussion was went very well on the AI agents and the tools that I am currently using in day-to-day tasks. Thereafter, they asked about my responsibility in my previous role. So I have explained my entire roles and responsibility of my role with a project explanation as well. So they have asked about Django framework because they will be mostly using Django framework in their Unirac application. So they also asked with Python basics questions and also pandas and numpy and what type of automations that I have built using Python. So better to prepare Python and Django frameworks if you are really preparing for a software engineer role at Unirac. In every interview, I will be experiencing the theory concepts first and the coding next. But Unirac went in a different direction by asking a coding approach first to understand the problem solving skills of an employee, which I liked it very much. So they quickly started with the coding questions by giving two coding problems. Firstly, started with merging the overlapping intervals. Here the problem goes with a list of arrays that are having a overlapping elements. Then we need to merge those elements. Like 1, 3 and 2, 6 are the two sets of arrays and having a overlapping of 3 and 2. So we need to merge these two lists and make a single list inside this array. The output comes like 1, 6 and 8, 10 and 15 and 18. The 3 from the first list and 2 from the second list will be combined as a single list. So the approach goes like sorting the intervals by start time and iterating through sorted list. So firstly I have explained the entire approach and they asked me to start the code. And I also optimized the solution and also explained my time and space complexity of this code. And the second question goes like a peak element in the array. A element is known as peak, which is more than the left and right elements of it. Like the element has to be greater than both of the neighbor elements. So here we need to ask the valuable questions before getting into the code to get more clarification. Like I have asked what if the element is, what if the input is empty, and what happens if we have the multiple peak elements, what happens if the input is single element, and do we need to handle the edge cases like when the input is large and when the input is empty. So for clarifications I have asked more questions and started with my approach to handle only single peak element, not about multiple peak elements. So they have asked me to optimize the code and explain the approach by using any of the data structures. So here I have used binary search to solve this question, which has taken up a O of log and time complexity, which is the optimized solution for this peak element of the array. This was around 45 minutes of a coding interview, problem understanding. Thereafter, they quickly started with front-end technologies like JavaScript. So they have completely deep dive into the JavaScript concepts like asynchronous operations, entire asynchronous operations I need to explain, and how the event loop runs and the architecture of the event loop, like how the each and every task will execute inside the call stack, and about micro tasks and macro tasks, what will be the priority of the task, about callbacks and promises, and about higher order functions. They have asked more about map, filter and reduce, in the array methods. They have given two type of arrays and asked me to use it using the map, filter and reduce inbuilt methods. So I have explained the approach and solved those array questions using map, filter and reduce. And about promises and error handling, they have asked a real-time scenario like what happens if you want to execute the promise every time, like using try catch and finally block. What happens if we do not write a finally block? These type of questions they have asked. And also they have asked more on promises and callback, which will be having the highest priority and which will be executed first in the micro and macro scenario of a call stack. So I have explained the entire control flow in the browser in the dev tools with a clear understanding of promises and callbacks. They have also covered try catch and finally blocks and how the cleanup logic will perform in each iteration and each render. Nextly, they have started with React concepts questions like entire architecture and performance of React. In React, they have mostly covered the class and functional components like state management and lifecycle methods in the class components and the functional component difference, and what happens if we use lifecycle methods in the functional components. So these type of questions they have covered the most. And about states and prop, what is the difference and where we can use the props, and when will the state gets updated, and how many times the render method will be called once state gets updated. And about virtual DOM and the reconciliation. This is the most important concept in React. So get a deep understanding of this diffing algorithm and reconciliation. How exactly virtual DOM will work in each stage, from the starting with the parent and child components rendering. How the exactly flow will happen in the virtual DOM. Next, they have asked about hooks like use memo, use callback, and what is the exact difference of these both, and what happens in the use memo and use callback. The value will be stored or the entire data will be stored. Key prop, what is the importance of a key in a list? If there are 100 plus users in your application, how the key plays a major role in the list to identify the unique data in the list. So we will be using the key. So context API and the Redux, when we need to use a Redux and when we need to go for context, we need to give the entire explanation of a producers and the consumer in the context. Thereafter, local state and the global state. In Redux, we'll be having the global state. So it's better to explain the entire global state clearly. And coming to Redux middleware, what are the middlewares that I am using in the React Redux? And action interception and the side effects handling, they have asked the most. And coming to React Redux use cases, they have asked most use cases that I have experienced before. Which type of scenarios I am using the React Redux most. So I have explained the entire Redux use cases that I have done in my project. Key takeaways of this interview are strong DSA fundamentals we need to have before attending to this product based interview, like practicing the coding problems and the edge cases is very much important, and we need to explain the time and space complexity as well. As it's a product based company, so they will be mostly asking about the DSA questions and the problem understanding, and also little bit system design concepts as well. I have also explained the cap theorem and vertical and horizontal scaling of an application. And they've also covered the AWS fundamentals like EC2, Lambda, and S3 bucket, how we will be handling in our large scale application. And React internal knowledge, what happens in the backend of the React, how React will render in each phase, how many times a React application will render, and how exactly we will be handling the props is very how exactly we handle the components is very much important. And clear explanation skills, we need to be very confident in explaining each and every concept in the interview. So great positive feedback from the interviewer. Like I will also mention the tips to crack the similar interviews, like mastering the DSA questions and all concepts like linked list, stack, queue, and binary search, sorting methods. And coming to system design concepts, few concepts on low level design like solid principles, and the design patterns are like keep it simple pattern, and also mostly about better to prepare well on the backend frameworks. So mostly Unirac will be focusing on the backend concepts, ORMs in the Django, any automation project that you have made using Python, it will be a add-on in this interview. So mostly they have focused on system design concepts as well. So better to practice system design fundamentals, and behavioral questions also they have asked most. How you will be handling the critical task if you are in a deadline, and how can you extend your hours if the application deployment is urgent. These type of questions they have also asked, and explaining the thought process clearly can be a great add-on for this interview. So all the very best for this interview if you are preparing for Unirac Solar India product based company. Hope you guys like this video. See you in the next video. Bye.